back. Episode 2 of our return. And Jeremy, the Premier League, we're back from international break. All the other top leagues are back from the international break. The Champions League starting up today and tomorrow. So lots to be excited about. Jeremy, where's your head at right now?
I don't know if my head has left Old Trafford yet because of the result from this past weekend. But we get Champions League back. To me and Sammy, I think you can agree with this. It's one of the best competitions, not just in the world of football, but in domestic sport as a whole, right? Like we rarely see this in American sports. We rarely get like a best on best. The MLS tried it with the MLS is back tournament that they did in Disney World, which was fun for a little bit, but nothing compares to Champions League. This is where Europe does it best. And hey, you get 32 of the best clubs in the entire world, and it's just a battle of absolute juggernauts. And we start this afternoon. And hey, I'm just excited. I'm excited to be back. I'm excited that my club is a part of it, even though I don't know where I'm going to predict for them. But there's so many great matchups. Group F is really highlighting this entire tournament. They start off today. So yeah, I'm just pumped to see, the upsets, the the dominant clubs that we all know and love, or sometimes we don't love them because they're our rivals. But hey, it's an exciting time if you're a soccer fan.
No, it 100% is. And I mean, I'm wearing a Tottenham kit, and obviously your team replaces my team in the competition this year.
Yep.
Hopefully they fare a little better into the old knockouts if they get there. But I think we should go to the Premier League. We'll start there as we typically do. Started Manchester United last time. We'll start with Tottenham Hotspur this time, and it was a little questionable for a second in that second half. I would say Tottenham in general though played a very good 90 plus minutes. Like even though they were behind in that, I think it was a like late 70s goal, late 70-minute goal.
73rd for
Yeah,
Sheffield. Yeah.
yeah. Tottenham had that game the whole time. Like they were in control of that. They played very well. It was just kind of in that final third, like getting those shots, not just on net, but being a little better quality, I would say. Their bigger issue too in the second half was like you have 16 shots and 3 of them are on goal. You got to be a little better than in that area. But like they had 10 corners in the second half. They had 5 corners in the first half. They had 7 shots on goal in the first half. Um, this team's aggressive and they're going after games. Um, I love Ainge. I'm so happy. I
I'm glad you're enjoying him, right? Like, because you
Yeah,
lose one of my clubs, not my top club, but one of my clubs.
yeah.
You have him now, and I told you, like, because when we were looking at the potential Tottenham managers, his name was probably one of the like less recognizable, just because he was in the Scottish
At least at
Prem.
the beginning. At least at the beginning.
Right. And I was like, hey, he's a winner. And he won with Celtic. So he's bringing that culture. And I'm glad you're enjoying him right now. And I'm glad that he's doing well and
Yeah.
establishing himself in the best league in the world.
Even if the results weren't coming, these players want to play for him. And I think that's like the biggest difference that happens when you go from an Antonio Conte season 2 to here. He's encouraging his players, especially when you're looking at what happened specifically with Richarlison, struggling in general with Spurs his whole time. You saw the leading up to that game while he was on international break with Brazil in tears on the sideline, going through some mental health issues that he kind of opened up about. And then he comes out and has an incredible performance off the bench. The game, he scores a goal and an assist, contributes to the 2 goals that Tottenham has in his substitution performance. And it really, I think, partially goes out to Ainge publicly speaking in support of him. That's something Antonio Conte, you couldn't have paid him any amount of money to say what he did. So I think he did, like, not only in terms of his in game management, but he deserves some credit for how he's handling these players, building a relationship, and getting them to not only play for him, but play for the badge, because that didn't happen towards the tail end of last season. Um, Another person I am a big fan of is Vicaria. I said it last week. I'm going to say it again this week. Even in a game where again, I give goalkeepers a lot of credit when their team is dominating and they can still say locked in. Aside from the facilitation, because again, you'll probably have to be involved in swinging the ball back around. Um, But it's very hard when your team has almost the entirety of the possession. You're at 70 plus possession, killing it in terms of shots, really not letting anything get remotely close to your box. And then all of a sudden it's a counter attack and your goalkeeper has to step up after not being involved in the game. That's something Vicario did last game against Sheffield that really impressed me. He stayed involved and he was ready when he had to be involved because Sheffield, although they didn't play great on the counterattack, they had opportunities. So I want to give them not only credit for being solid on the counter, but Vicario for stepping up, and then Madison and Kulu that game
Player of the
were
month, James Madison.
fantastic. And Big Ange Postecoglou, manager of the month as
Love that.
well.
I love that.
That's why I was worried though, is because that happened with Conte, and that also happened with Nuno. Like I was worried.
Yeah.
I was worried. But fortunately, it didn't happen. Madison's continues to be class. Like the amount of creativity he provides for this team is you can't even quantify how much of a difference he makes because that ball would just disappear in the midfield last year. We didn't have someone who could connect things. That's why you saw Harry Kane drop back so far into the midfield and play that kind of more of a center forward instead of a striker type of role. Whereas now, although, I mean, Sonny's not really a striker. He did start a striker last game, but Richie, Sonny, whoever's playing in that number 9 spot has the opportunity to play more as a striker if they feel more comfortable doing that because Madison can take on that creativity. And Kulu showed he can take on a little creativity. He had a fantastic game. Richie, as we mentioned. And then the last 2 points I have, Brennan Johnson makes his debut. If you didn't see the number and name on the jersey, you might mistake him for a young Dele with the way he moves on the pitch. Just throwing it out there as a Tottenham hopeful.
Is he number 20?
No, but like close.
Oh.
I don't think. Yeah. He came on and almost scored right away, like almost instantly. He was offsides, but it was very close, and it's more along the lines of like, if you're gonna have that kind of impact right away, that's something to look forward to. And he seems pretty rapid as well, so it's really exciting. There. And then my last point is someone who deserves more credit, and that's Perisic. He deserves a lot more credit for what he's done as a substitute from that left wing, involved in both the goals that we had. So I want to give him a little bit more love and just kind of what he's been able to do as not only a veteran presence with this team, but as someone they didn't expect to stay. He was someone that was almost, I thought, was a lock to leave. Like I honestly expected him to be back over in Italy for the season, but he stayed, and I think he's provided a massive benefit for this team. Well, I know your eyes might have been a little bit elsewhere since our games were going on at the same time. But did you have any other general takeaways about Spurs?
No, I mean, like they just look impressive, right? Like I look at them sitting at second in your top four, have yet to drop all 3 points in a game in all the first five. It's an impressive form for Tottenham. It's something that we really haven't seen, and what I feel like is years, with Harry Kane. Like if those Harry Kane, Gareth Bale teams were just, they were established, and you're trying to get that old mentality back. You like our clubs are supposed to be in the big six. Your club is playing like it. My club might not be playing like it right now. But like,
we didn't last season, though. I do want to say
no, right, fair. But like they gotta,
yeah.
It's glad that Tottenham are really establishing that mentality of old. Like we're supposed to win. Like we are an established club. We have a great history in terms of maybe not trophies, but players coming through and real successful players that we know that played in this league, and we have this brand new stadium to show for it. And this stadium is state of the art, and that's a big part of this club was that investment. So really glad to see that you guys are really finding your stride and really establishing yourself in the upper echelon of the Premier League.
We'll have a little more time to talk about this later in the week. Our goal is to do 2 episodes a week, and also if you haven't figured it out, we're testing out Speaker View just in case of trying to get more clips on social media. I think the kind of side to side of both of our frames looks weird on social media, so we're going to give this a shot. Hopefully it works. My last 2 things. Later in the week, we'll have a chance to talk about this, but Tottenham's next 2 games are Liverpool and Arsenal. Arsenal first in the London Derby, and then Liverpool. Away at Arsenal, home against Liverpool. Those 2 games will, in my opinion, dictate what are your hopes for Tottenham this year. see how you can play against. Because again, as much as Manchester United are a great squad, they weren't in the greatest of form when Tottenham beat them. So I kind of want to brush that one behind and not say like, oh, we beat Manchester United. We didn't beat like Manchester United playing their best. So I think these two games against both an Arsenal team that have done well to get all the points, or not all points, but close to all the points that are on the table for them, as well as Liverpool, um, showing how competitive you can be with those teams that are in form. I think will really dictate kind of where we're at as fans of Tottenham and how hopeful we can be. Because obviously, what you've seen in the first few weeks is, oh wait, this team might fight for a Champions League spot. But if you get demolished by Arsenal and Liverpool, then that gets diminished a little bit. You steal a win against one of those two teams, that changes quite a bit. So, and it stays a little more consistent with where people are now. Also, can people leave Harry Kane alone? Final comment. Just leave Harry Kane alone. Like they're asking him questions about his like Premier League and just trying to egg responses about Manchester United and Tottenham
Yeah,
and just
that
like
just
all
came out
those links.
today.
It is well, that was it was like yesterday, but it's like
Mm,
hitting. Dude, stop, Spurs fans. He's your all-time leading goal scorer. Like the amount of people I saw, like I'm losing respect for him. Like why doesn't he talk about us? He doesn't play for us. He's moving on.
no,
He should move on. We didn't do right by him. He should have a trophy by now.
and he's doing well.
So he's doing pretty well. I mean, the teams could be doing better, and that's more Zabi Alonso than anything else. Um, but this, like, leave Harry Kane alone. He did more for this club than arguably, and I would say not even arguably, like definitively, more than anyone else has ever done.
Right.
He did everything he could in his time here, and he is. You can't call him one of our own for years. And then the second he leaves because we sold him, because we have to, and then just kind of give up on him and thinks like he's cheating on us or like it's just like it's garbage. Like it's
Yeah.
childish. Come on now. I want to love my fan base, but like this is bad. So let's grow up, Tottenham, and also be Bayern Munich fans. That's all I have to say. All right, ready? Were you ready for a little United, or how are we feeling?
Yeah. So I think your segment was sponsored by Folgers Coffee. I think mine's sponsored by Jack Daniel's whiskey. I don't even know where to start, man. First of all, it had to be Danny Welbeck to just get the scoring going, right? Former United legend himself early on. Which is funny because I thought United played an excellent start of the game. I thought we looked it was some of the best football that we've been playing in a while without scoring a goal. Like I just thought like they looked strong, they looked tactically, you know, correct for once. But you give up an early goal and that goes out the window and the mindset just goes like, oh, we're down now. Um yeah, you could tell this team's a little bit banged up, not just mentally, but physically. Losing Aaron Wan-Bissaka now is a bit of a kick in the groin, but you have Diogo Dallo and Reguilon, who I thought was fine. I thought he played okay. I know he's been getting a lot of like when 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 United signed Sergio Reguilon, like it was a big like, oh my god, like what's he doing? Like he sucked at Tottenham. He's coming to United. I really don't look into all like the fan chatter because you know the club. I have no say in what the club does. The only bright light out of this game was Hannibal gets his first Premier League goal, and it really shows the quality of the youth players that United do have. I love when players come up through the ranks, like Marcus did, like Jesse Lingard did just a few years ago. But players like Hannibal, Kobe Mainu, who's recovering from an injury that took place during the preseason, he's going to come into this club and really be that the apprentice under both Sofian Amrabat and Casemiro. Like he's gonna really fit into that six or like a box to box midfielder. He was one of my favorite. He almost was my preseason MVP until he went down. Um, yeah, you said it. Brighton was gonna be a tough result no matter what, and conceding 3 goals is like it's almost unheard of. It's almost unheard of. To concede 3 or more when you're a club that's projected to do well, And you have results like this, everything just goes out the window. Everything is, you know, everything is being now like I feel like I'm like flustered just because like I don't know like what to expect. There has to be an audible. There has to be a change of scenery in some way, shape, or form. You're on bad form going up against one of the world powerhouses in Bayern Munich. Now they're not doing well, but however, like I still think Bayern will crush Man U that played last weekend. Um, there has to be a change in the lineup. I thought I thought Hoyland almost had his first goal. It was the out of bounds play, which people were trying to fight that. Oh, it wasn't out of bounds. To me, it looked out of bounds, and I don't think like VAR would get that wrong because I think they have you know I don't know if they have a sensor for when a ball goes out, like how the ref has a sensor, like if it crosses the line or whatnot. Um, People were trying to fight. Even Man U fans were trying to fight. I'm like, look, like we're fighting an out of bounds call. We're still losing. Like and that would have made it 1-1. I believe that would have tied it. And then Pascal Gross gets a goal, and then everything just goes out the window. De Zerbi is a great manager. He really exposed us. I think he really exposed Ten Hag and like our vulnerability. So I think Bayern is actually I think this couldn't have come at a better time, believe it or not. I think when you are in a bad form, like in a Champions League scenario, either in the group stage or in the round of 16, you're going to have to face good teams no matter what. Like you have to beat the best of the best, to get the glory, right? And for Man U, if they want to go out to the knockout rounds, they're going to have to perform somewhat well against a Bayern Munich team. Now, no disrespect to Galatasaray, who we have in match week 2 for the Champions League, and then Copenhagen, who we have after that. But Bayern Munich is where we're going to either win the group or come in second, or maybe even just go back to Europa League and take it from there. So, I don't want to blame everything on health. I feel like that's a cop out because I, for
I
one,
think
believe
defensively you can to a degree. To a
yeah,
degree.
to a degree, right? Because like I still believe that like as a club, I think like our depth should be solid, and I think you know our structure should remain somewhat the same. Um,
You mind if I
Attack,
jump in here for a second?
yeah, sure.
It's more just I think the back line could have been better supported, but there's issues because of your ownership group right now. It didn't really allow you guys to do what you needed to do
No,
in the summer. So as much as like some people might be getting on Ten Hag right now, like he kind of needs a bit of a pass until this team is sold and he can properly get
oh
the players
God,
he needs. You know what I mean? Like I just wanted to kind of
yeah,
clarify
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
because like as much as there is like issues with depth because of the injuries right now and just some of the players that maybe shouldn't really be there just because they're not good enough to play at United right
Mm-hmm.
now.
Yeah,
That's not really on them at the moment because he needed to keep the depth because he needed to have it, which is obviously proving to be a good decision. Because
yeah,
although you don't want to play Harry Maguire or really play Lindelof, like you at least have them now. You have someone to throw at the center back position. Um, so I do want to kind of clarify that like Ten Hag is getting way more kind of hate for this start and how that backline is performing than he deserves. But go ahead
right.
now.
Yeah, but no, you're exactly right. Like he's going to get hate. He's going to get hate because everyone just sees, oh, Man U lose, blame the manager. Oh, we lost 3-1, blame the manager. Oh, we lost in the last minute to Arsenal, blame the manager. No, there is a lot going on at this club that is just I couldn't even fathom if I was like a part of this team. Like we have an ownership group that is so incompetent that promised to sell the club and now it's like, gotcha. We're actually going to keep all of our stake and we're not going to sell to Qatar. We're not going to sell to Sir Jim Radcliffe. We're not going to sell to anybody. And you have players behind the scenes that are, well, the Anthony situation I thought was absurd. It was actually a ploy to get him like out of the league and accused him of domestic violence. And I feel bad for Anthony because he's actually innocent, and it feels like he was targeted. But then with the Mason Greenwood stuff, like that's just yeah. They're just everything was just going and blowing up this entire year, right? You know, um, Andre Onana, like he's got no help in front of him right now. Like it's bad. I love Andre Onana. I think he's gonna be fine when everything is back to normal. It's gonna be a while because with Shaw being out for an extended period of time, Varane's not coming back for right now. Wan-Bissaka's out. Like that's three defensive starters that are out. And you don't have Tyrell Malacia right now. You had Regulon, who's filling in on a loan period, who's going to be playing way more games than I think he expected to play at Man United. And you have Diogo Dallo, who actually deserves to be a first teamer, but he gets to be a solid first teamer now with the injury to Aaron Wan-Bissaka. So you'll probably have Sergio on the left, and in the middle, you'll probably have Lindelof and Martinez, and then Delo. So, yeah, I don't want to see Johnny Evans or Harry Maguire. They're gonna play. They're gonna play with the amount of games that we have, and with the quality opponents that we have. Like this next coming week, right? It's Champions League on Wednesday, a weekend game against Burnley, and then a midweek Carabao Cup game against Crystal Palace, and then Crystal Palace again that weekend. It's 4 games in the span of almost a little over a week. So it's a lot. It's a lot on these players. And sure, Ten Hag's gonna get the whole blunt of it, right? I think Ten Hag is the best thing that's happened to Man U in a long time. His ruthless aggression that I brought up yesterday was much needed. He needs to stand up for the club, not the ownership, but for the he I think deep down in his heart, I really think he wants to provide the best football for the fans because we deserve it. With everything that's going on, I think we deserve some bright light. Now, our next opponent is Bayern Munich. Do I think we're going to get all 3 points? No. Is it a possibility? Sure, it's a possibility. Every time a team plays, there's always a chance that, you're going to have a winner, you're going to have a loser, or you have a draw. I think a draw might be best case scenario. It's kind of like, hey, we didn't win, but hey, like we hung around with Bayern Munich. And Man U have a history of doing that. They like hanging around with really quality opponents. Like there was a period in time where like, sure, Man City would embarrass us or Tottenham would embarrass us, but then we would like sneak a draw or like beat Man City at home 2-0, and Scott McTominay scores a goal in like the 85th minute to really clinch the win. I want to see that happen eventually. Like I really need Marcus Rashford to come onto form. Like he's been fluctuating, right? I really want Bruno and Højlund to really get a solid relationship going because I think Bruno is such a world-class distributor. And if you can find Rasmus Højlund, I think there's going to be more goals to come. I really do. I don't think we're going to get that with Tony Martial, meaning I really think that they need to address this situation again in January. But we still have the same ownership group that we're going to have. They're going to have the Glazers for the foreseeable future. John Murtaugh, our director, like him and Ten Hag really, really, really want to address this club and have the best case scenario for the players. But with these people at the helm, bad days are going to be until they leave. And I don't know when that'll be. So in terms of the next opponent, which is Bayern, find a way, just find a way to just not get embarrassed. I really don't want to, watch this game and it be like if this team loses like 3-4-0, like then I'm just going to be like, all right, well then they're not motivated at all.
I think just a couple like kind of additional points in general. One back to kind of the Regulon conversation. I really do think he deserved another chance somewhere else
Yeah.
because he's just not a wing back. And like that's why he fell out of favor more than anything else. It wasn't that he was playing terribly when he was a consistent first teamer, like getting playing time, but he just doesn't fit what the managers are doing at Tottenham now. So like him going out was more a result of that, and like him not playing well was more at Tottenham at towards the end was more a result of that So I want to say that he deserved the chance of going to another decent club to get a chance to just play in a system that makes more sense for him. Um, Casemiro's got to figure it out, man. He looks
Yeah,
very much unlike
he's looking
himself.
old. That's what he's looking right now.
And that's why I'm kind of like fingers crossed that Armabot, when he comes in, will just kind of freshen up Casemiro, maybe.
Yeah,
Just kind of building that rotation. Maybe you can just get Casemiro like 60, 70 minutes, tone him back a little bit, not ask of him as much. Maybe he doesn't play some of these cup games, that kind of thing.
yeah.
I think that would help him just because, again,
That
as you mentioned, he's getting a little older. So,
that's where we need Kobe Mainu, and having him out
mm,
is is a real pain, because this is
yeah.
where like I look at like the League Cup game against Crystal Palace next week. This is where Kobe Mainu would be like, oh wow. And the beauty of it is he's only like a teenager. So like we're gonna have him for, the foreseeable future, for the next, 4 or 5 years at least, right? Until he gets an extension. But yeah, you can just tell Cassie's just, because it's silly, right? Because like last year he just went off and he was like the best, one of the best signings of the Premier League, and he kept Man U, and he got, he was a big part of Man U finishing in third. Now it's just like, oh man, like are we overworking him? Which I think might be the case, just because he's not getting any younger.
Maybe a little mental too, just kind of given the general
Yeah, I think
form of
everyone's.
Man U too.
I think everyone on Man U is going through something like mental. Like there's just a lot of drama for one club to go under for one, and not even play like a quarter of the year yet, right? Like it's just, I don't know. It's
I,
it's like
all
a
right,
soap opera,
hear me out. Eric Ten Hag, dial up the phone. Dr. Sharon Fieldstone, get her in the building.
dude. We I don't
Just
think I think a sports psychologist is.
it wouldn't be a
They
bad
might
like,
need a little. They might need a little more than a sports psychologist. They
but
might
like
need
that type of thing, considering the amount of just like headache and mental stuff that's going on, Man United. I'm not saying they don't already have one or something like that, but I feel like there's a lot of players that are just not playing like themselves with Manchester United right now.
yeah,
And I think something along those lines is like a sort of maybe a reach, slightly a joke, like actually might kind of help. They need something.
yeah.
Um,
You know what
the
I
last
want?
oh
I
go ahead.
want I want Scott McTominay of Scotland to play for Manchester United. Like I look I when I watch Scotland and I see Scott McTominay scoring headers against, or scoring goals against Spain, or against,
Give a brace against Spain.
yeah, I think he did. And he's just scored against Cyprus in their 3-0 win. And I'm like, wow, like he is awesome. And he's getting these chances, in the attacking third. Then when you play him in the Premier League, and it's just like, okay, like now that's Scott
Yeah.
McTominay. That's Scott McTominay is on something else when he plays for Scotland. I don't know what. There might be something in the old in the Iron Brew that they're drinking before the game over there in Glasgow. But yeah, man, I just want a positive result. We the run of games after Bayern is, I think, are winnable. It's Burnley, it's Crystal Palace again, and then Sheffield might be there, and then we get to the derby against Man City later on. So, but before Man City, after Bayern, there's got to be at least a couple of wins in there just to get this train back and rolling.
You mentioned 4 games in that stretch, correct? Separating. Is that what you said? Was it 4 or 5?
Let me look
Because
first,
I was
just
going to
because.
say, like, if you're looking at a set of 4 games here between that and Manchester City, if you can get 3 out of 4, I think that should be kind of the objective to try to get back on track. Because those are all
Oh,
very much winnable games. And if you dropped maybe one of the Crystal Palace games,
so it's Bayern tomorrow, and then after
yeah,
tomorrow, it's Burnley on the 23rd, Crystal Palace Tuesday the 26th, Crystal
yeah,
Palace in the league Saturday the 30th, Galatasaray Champions League, Brentford,
okay.
Sheffield, Copenhagen, Man City. So we end the month of October with Man City. So
Right.
I think the month of October should be United's strongest month,
So
and
you
they
have
need,
7 games there, seven
yeah,
matches there. That
I
should be
think
five
five of
dubs.
seven, five of
I
seven.
think it should be five. I think
Five
five is
minimum.
the expectation should be five.
Yeah.
And if like kind of just looking at it here, my guess would be a draw. Like obviously, I'm rooting for you to be happy and get your results, especially since none of them are against
I think
Spurs.
Brentford we draw.
But giving an honest prediction, I think the draw is going to come against the second Crystal Palace game or Brentford. And I think you're going to lose one of those two matches. And I think you're going to draw Galatasaray the first time, depending on where that match is. I didn't check whether you're home or away for that
I
one.
want to
Because I think
say
away at
it's at Old Trafford.
Okay, so that one might be a win. I'm just saying the way at Galatasaray is going to be very, very tough.
Yeah, Turkey is just a
Um,
tough place for everybody. It's
but
just
I
far
also
too.
also like this week being away at Bayern is tough too.
Oh my god,
But
I'm not
just to
looking
kind of
forward
wrap
to
up,
it at all.
yeah, I know. But just to wrap this one up, I want to say two more things. One, Andre Onana hasn't been bad, but you signed him to be like that next step up from David De Gea,
Yeah.
and he hasn't had one of those like, oh my god, that's the guy games. You know,
No, because
that's kind of what I'm like, and I know the back line just kind of sets him up for failure
well,
to a
no,
degree.
not necessarily. But you have a point, right? Like we haven't seen one of those games yet because what is he known for? He's known for his distribution. Who the hell is gonna like bury a chance that he rolls out? Like it should be Rashford. He should be finding Rashford along that left side because I think Rashford has the quality to like make a move one on one and then bury a goal with an assist to Andre Onana, right? Because I would say Bruno, but I think Bruno's going to look for that extra pass to find a winger, to find a striker, right? So we haven't really seen that from Andre because where is it? Where's the quality that's in front of him? It's just not there
Yeah.
right now.
He did come in and already limit like the mistakes at the back, which is obviously a huge step
Yeah.
up because De Gea with his turnover issues in
Mm-hmm.
that area
Oh
where
my
it was a
god!
problem
And
last
and the
year.
ball at De Gea's feet was just like I pray to
Frightening.
God. Yeah.
But last thing before we jump into the broader Premier League is that Brighton's very fun. And I know they don't have the biggest of names, and I
No,
know
they're
it's not the
good.
biggest of club, but they are a fun team, and it
Mm,
just seems like they sell someone and they have the next man up, ready
yeah.
to go. So they deserve a lot of credit for that. But okay, let's jump to the broader Premier League now. So when looking at just kind of the other games aside from the two that we were locked in at on 10 a.m. on Saturday, um, first of all, it's the one that I believe started that day, which was Liverpool after trailing from a seventh minute Hwang Hee-chan goal. Salah picks up two assists, including the Gakpo 1-1 draw. And, well, they ended up winning. So it was a big result for them, and kind of a comeback performance for them that keeps them in that top four without dropping any points, aside from obviously a draw. City 3-1 over West Ham. James Ward-Prowse continues to produce for the Hammers, but not enough to best City because, well, it's City. And then Newcastle and Arsenal both squeak out 1-0 wins, while Chelsea prove they struggle to score. Still in a 0-0 draw. Jeremy, which of those 3, 4, 5 games is standing out to you?
Definitely Man City, West Ham. I think, when James Ward-Prowse puts West Ham up 1-0, it's kind of like, like okay. But just showing that you can score three unanswered goals just proves that you are the best of the best, I think, in the entire world. Real player that I really want to see really develop in the Premier League is Jeremy Doku, who came over from the French league, I believe. Believe he played for Rennes, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it was Rennes. He really came in and was just like an explosive player. And anytime you see a player named Jeremy, you always kind of like, focus in a little bit on them a little extra. And I really don't want him to do that against us in the derby, but no, Man City really proved themselves. And then Liverpool. Liverpool to me, like I said Liverpool were going to finish in the top four to begin. I think them finishing outside the Champions League is almost blasphemous. I really thought that they were a better team than Newcastle on paper last year, but Newcastle were just resilient. Eddie Howe took them to that next step. But I think Jurgen Klopp to me is if I didn't have Eric Ten Hag, I would want Jurgen Klopp managing my football club. I don't care what anybody says. I love Jurgen Klopp. I love his system. I love his personality. I love his passion. Um, but those two results were the ones that I was like, okay, now we really know who the best of the best are. And you're hanging around with them too. So don't cut yourself short until, those next two games are going to be really crucial for your club. But yeah, we know who the Giants are now.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I was almost more kind of like eyes on that Newcastle and Arsenal wins being 1-1 wins. against Everton and Brentford, who aren't easy outs. They aren't easy teams to beat. But again, what I think makes or breaks teams in the Premier League and what gets you to the top of the table isn't necessarily the wins against Manchester United or the wins against Tottenham or Liverpool. It's making sure you don't drop points to teams you're supposed to beat.
Right.
Newcastle supposed to beat Brentford. Brentford's a good team, don't get me wrong, and better than most of those you're supposed to beat teams. But still, if you're looking at Newcastle, you're a Champions League side, you should beat Brentford. Same with Arsenal. If you have title aspirations in the Premier League, you have to beat Everton. And both teams found a way to do that. And I think that's the difference between those two teams. And although Newcastle has struggled to the start of the season in terms of results, that's the difference between Newcastle, Arsenal, and teams like that and Chelsea right now. Chelsea just doesn't have that killer instinct. They don't have a belief they can win, I don't think. And that's kind of their biggest issue. They just don't, there isn't that faith that they can go out and get a result. They don't have that scoring threat. And I was really hoping when we saw Sterling step up and have a really strong performance to get the season going that it was going to be as a supporter of another team in London. I kind of wasn't hoping this, but as just a football fan, I was hoping that that was going to spring Chelsea into at least a little bit of a more competitive form, a better form, not a drawing to Bournemouth form, you know? So I'm still very concerned about them. I think obviously they're young, they have a lot of pieces, there's plenty of potential, still a lot of concern around Chelsea. You have anything else to add there? Or do you want to jump kind of to our top five league general takeaways?
No, I think we focused and hit the nail on the head with the Prem. We can hop on a plane and head to another country if we want to.
All right, let's start our European tour in Italy, and I think it's for one game in particular. Inter dominating, and by dominating, I mean dominating AC Milan. Four different goal scorers. Mkhitaryan's on one in that one. He had two goals. He was fantastic, but collectively, 7 of their 14 shots in that match were on target. So they were producing a decent amount of opportunities and putting them on frame, which is absolutely massive against a quality goalkeeper in Manyan. My guy Leao gets the one goal for AC Milan, but really just unable to pull out a competitive game against Inter, who kind of proved and claimed their dominance over Milan. Lazio falls 3-1 to Juventus, and ever since kind of their last season rise to success, it's been a very, very slow start to this season as they're creeping towards the relegation area in the very early going of the Serie A. And the final one that stood out for me, Roma, 7-0 over Empoli. And what is Jose Mourinho cooking over at Roma with Romelu Lukaku? I must say, it's something to keep your eye on as well. It's Jose Mourinho. You got to keep your eye on any club that Jose Mourinho's at. So, Jeremy, where are you at with those three contests?
I look at the Roma roster right now, and I'm really impressed with just the quality that they have from beginning to end. Obviously, it starts with Dybala. I think Dybala is also, just a world class player. I also packed his footies card yesterday, so I'm a little high on Paulo Dybala right now. I am happy actually for Romelu Lukaku. I really think he got the short end of the stick at his time at Man U. And look, he wasn't the most impactful player. He wasn't really putting in a whole lot of effort, but he did get a lot of shellacking over at Man U and at his time at Chelsea. So I'm really glad to see that he's playing for another quality manager in Jose Mourinho, that he can just really shape him up and to be that world class striker. But I look at like Renato Sanchez and I look at Brian Cristante, like that's a real solid roster. I bring up rosters because now let's go over to AC Milan. And the positives is the front three to me are quality for the Serie A, right? You have Leao, you have Pulisic, and you have Olivier Giroud. The midfield is one where I'm uh, are we really throwing all of our eggs in our basket of Ruben Loftus-Cheek? You know what I mean? Like, sure, he had his moments at Chelsea, but is he gonna really start in the midfield every game? So if I'm looking at the AC Milan lineup, where the heck is their creativity in their midfield coming from? I think it's going to get exposed, and it just did. But I think it's going to get exposed later on against teams like Roma, Juve, Lazio, Napoli. So like really, when they play against those quality teams, they need a strong foundation in the midfield. A strong midfield goes a long, long way in the world's game. It really does, right? Look at Man U, right? Like bringing in Bruno was awesome. I think Bruno has been the best signing of you know of our club in a long time. You look at Man City, look at their midfield, and they have like someone like Kevin De Bruyne. Look at Tottenham. Look at James Madison. Look what he's doing at your club. It's wonders, right? And you notice a difference. You really do. So I look at this Milan roster and I'm like, where the heck is their midfield coming from? Now I know these guys are, I really don't know much about this midfield three, apart from Ruben Loftus-Cheek a little bit, playing at Chelsea, playing at Fulham. But I'm like, is he really gonna start for AC Milan every game? Pulisic, I get. I think Pulisic needs to start every game for Milan, and I think he's enjoying his time there so far. But it's this result that makes you think like, okay, maybe we need to change the guard up a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think anyone was enjoying their time on the AC Milan side. What was going on there? Regardless, though, Milan still finds themselves obviously only 4 matches played, still in that top four fight. Napoli dropped some points, which was a little bit surprising to Genoa. So 2-2 draw for them. So they're one of those teams to keep your eyes on because obviously they have a ton of expectations coming into the season with what they ever did last year. So it's going to be very difficult for them to live up to that. All right. Now, trip to Germany over to the Bundesliga. And Bayern draw with Bayer Leverkusen, which was obviously the top story. Kane scores, so I was happy. But this was a super close contest, and credit to their new manager, Xabi Alonso over there at Leverkusen has a team that is locked in the early going. They've been very good, but both these sides are tied at the top of the table with 10, and Leverkusen has a better goal differential. So this could be a fight if this match was telling. I really like what I saw out of Bayer Leverkusen. Union Berlin, they fell to Wolfsburg, which isn't the best sign going into a match against Real Madrid. That one was 2-1. Dortmund battled and pulled out a 4-2 win against Freiburg, and then Leipzig as well pulling out a result. So, Jeremy, from those, I assume Bayern stood out. I do want to hear actually your thoughts here on what they got cooking over there at Leverkusen.
Look, before I get to them, I really want to talk about Union, and I
Okay.
just have one point to make on Union. Um, I love me with Union Berlin. I'm high on them. Um, I think my first point on them is just going to be this is a whole new lineup, and I don't think I want to like overreact right now. Although they have one of the world's best teams coming up in their slate later on this today, so um, I think with this whole new roster, it's just like a real like this team just needs time to gel. Like they're 2-2 right now, and then obviously dropping to Wolfsburg is a little alarming. But I think this team's going to be steady competitors for the time being. For Leverkusen, right? To me, in the last decade or so, this has been a two-horse race this league. No, I'm not knocking competition. I'm not knocking, Leverkusen, Leipzig, teams like that. But really, when you look at the winners of this league, it was always most of the times it was Bayern and then maybe Dortmund. Last year it was almost that case, but the last day of the season said otherwise. I look at this Bayern Leverkusen team, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, huh, like where is it just works. To me, I love Jeremy Frimpong. I think when they play that three at the back, or if they consider it five with the wing backs with Grimaldo and Frimpong, like you're really getting your distribution along those wing backs. Granit Xhaka has really turned into a new player later on in his career. We saw it in his latter stages of Arsenal, and then him finally becoming a real bright light in this midfield for Bayern Leverkusen. It's really something to see. You have the Finnish goalie in Herdecki, who's just been solid for this club for years on end. And then I've always liked Wirtz in the midfielder number 10. I think he's just been a real creative player. But again, you look at this roster and you're like, really, this is the one that's going to be competing with Bayern this year. It's alarming. It really is, because it just shows you, like a Brighton, like a team like that. You don't necessarily need the world's best, to make an all-star 11. All you need is a real great system, and Xabi Alonso has done that so far.
No, 100%. I completely agree. And it doesn't, at least so far to me, seem like it's going to be Dortmund's year to challenge again. I think last year was the best shot they were going
Mm-hmm.
to have, unfortunately. For them, brought it down to the very end. So, but we can move on and we'll kind of wrap up. I mean, I will brush over League One. We're gonna kind of talk about maybe introducing a little Dutch football into the future episodes as well. But PSG lost; they were uninspirational against Nice, so there's at least something to note there. They had a negative result going to the Champions League, so keep that in your back pocket if you're paying attention to them when you're going to the Champions League. But in terms of just like League One competitions, it's very hard to get super invested into what's going on over there. Well, Dutch football is a little more convincing lately. But I want to wrap up here with our kind of bigger leagues in Europe before we go over one talking point from the MLS, which is La Liga. So we'll jump over to Spain. The games that stood out to me: Atletico Madrid. I love you, Griezmann, but they flopped. They flopped bad. It was a disappointing result. 3-0 loss to Valencia. Barcelona hang on to a 5-0 win. I said hang on. I probably mean just like hang.
Dominate. Yeah.
Yeah,
Jeez.
like 5-0 win to Betis. Cancelo and Felix with their first goals in their new kits. Mason Greenwood with a debut 3-2 win over Getafe, and threatened by the fans over there at Sassana. So there's, potential repercussions coming again in Spain as fans doing something, frowned upon again in the Liga. Seems like a common trend that we've talked about in this show. And the final thing is 2 second-half goals for Real Madrid. Sneak them past Real Sociedad, one of them coming from Valverde. So, Jeremy, what do you like it?
Are we seeing the old Barcelona like kind of like slowly come back now? You and I were very animate about, their financial doings and the way that they were, with the whole ref thing going on. That was a whole like, all those scandals. But I really I really like this Barcelona team coming into play. I really think like they could be one of the most balanced teams in the world just from like top to bottom. I love Ter Stegen. I think Ter Stegen is he's definitely top 3. I might even throw him like at 1 in terms of like best goalies in the world, especially last year. I think last year he was like, Golden Glove winner for sure, like um Allison, Donnarumma, whoever, Onana, you can argue. But this Barcelona team, I look at the 5-0 win and I'm like, okay, like 5-0 is impressive. But doing it against Betis has really been solidified as like one of those like top 6 clubs in Spain that really kind of compete with the top, your Atletis, your Reals, your Barcelonas. Barcelona just dominate 5-0, 5 different goal scores. That's key, right? It's not just Leo getting, a brace and then, Joao Felix. Like this is Joao Felix, Leo, I'm sorry, Joao Cancelo. I really like Barcelona making a run here, and I really want to see what they do on the weekdays in Champions League play.
Yeah, it should be exciting, but also like looking at their substitutes, like you're bringing on Rafina, Marcos Alonso, Ilkay Gundogan, like they have some depth. So this team is certainly something to be excited about, although I still don't know how they afford any of these players, but we'll leave
Right.
that for a different
That's a
episode.
mystery. That's the world's greatest mystery.
Yeah. They just sold everything. Every part of their future's been sold at this point, I think, to be able to buy this team, and they're just hoping that they can just win everything and then hopefully make enough money. But we'll see how that pans out for them. Let's come over to the great United States for one storyline here, and it's about Messi. He didn't play. He didn't play.
Oh.
And Miami, for the first time since Messi came to the United States and joined their side, they lost.
Oh
They
no.
lost, and they were actually being trolled pretty bad too. It was actually really funny. A nice little quote of "Bring the whole team next time." But Messi not playing on turf, is this going to be something we consistently see, Mr. Jeremy?
I think with these world class players, I definitely think so. I've always been a fan of grass fields as a player. Rarely did we ever play on like a well mannered, well taken care of grass field. Like when I played at Queen of Peace, like we had a turf field that we had at our county park, and then we had this really crummy grass field, and most of the times we played on a really crummy grass field. But when you play against schools like Dwight Englewood that make you pay 30 grand a year, they take care of their fields up there in Dwight Englewood. So that was always my favorite field to play. Um, this might be a trend, and I think not only does it have to do with like safety, like I think to me I think the game is safer on grass than it is turf, but yeah, I mean like it was a real pain. It was a real pain for me when Henri did it. I'm actually wearing Henri's French jersey today as a nice little honor to one of the greatest Red Bulls of all time. It is a bit of a nuisance, right? When you because look, everyone forgets this. Miami was in last place when they signed Lionel Messi. The saying is you can't polish a turd. I think even with Lionel Messi, I still think Miami is a bad team. It's just Messi. It's Messi, and maybe he gets to link up with Joseph Martinez a few times. This team from top to bottom is not a great team. Sure, they won they won the tournament with the Liga with the Mexican League. Great. Oh, well done. Well done. They still have to fight for a spot in the playoffs for the MLS. Now, granted, there's only a few games left. There's only like about 5 games left for the MLS. You know, Miami's at the bottom. The Red Bulls are at the bottom. New York City, one of your recent champions, at the bottom. So, really, him holding out in a tough time like this is alarming. I think this doesn't get the recognition it does if this is like in March or in April when the season first starts and like they're opening up against the Revolution and they're playing at Gillette or they're playing at Bank of America against Charlotte, right? I think they use turf, I think, because I'm just assuming because it is a football stadium. But really holding out against like I think if you're coming to America, you're gonna know that most of our fields are grass turf, or I'm sorry, are artificial turf and not grass. Um, Only do you find them at like the soccer specific stadiums, like Red Bull Arena, like Kansas City, Minnesota. What's another one? I think Nashville might use grass as well because they're a soccer specific stadium. So they're becoming more and more grass fields, I think, as the league grows, right? As expansion teams grow, you get those new stadiums that are going to implement a grass field. But there still is, a Gillette Stadium, a Bank of America Stadium. It's a part, and Seattle. How can I forget Seattle? How can I forget the Sounders? So I think what alarms me is, oh, like we still have the fight for a playoff spot. But no, I'm going to sit out anyway. I'm going to sit out anyway. I don't want to risk anything. No offense. I don't want to like speculate injury, but like odds are that happening is like I don't want to assume, but it's like you can get hurt on a grass field. You know what I mean? Like if it's fear of injury, I don't know. I just think that I expect better from Messi. I really didn't think that would be in his repertoire. Henri, I get. Henri's a little bit of a, I can do without grass. And we saw it every year. But I just don't like the fact that they still can make the playoffs. If they go, their best chance is with Messi on the pitch.
Yeah, they're only like 7, 8 points out, aren't
Yeah,
they?
the
Of like
same thing
winning
with the Red Bulls too. Like we're all close. If you look at the MLS standings, all those teams at the bottom, apart from Toronto. So you're looking at Miami, Red Bulls, New York, Charlotte, and Chicago. Those are the teams that are on the outside looking into a playoff spot, right? Because now we get 1 through 9 make playoffs. they're all capable of making the playoffs. Like the Red Bulls. Like I'm going to the game tomorrow and they're playing Austin FC. Austin FC is a really good team. But like I still think that actually Austin's in 12th. I thought that I was thinking of the Austin team of last year that made the Western Finals. We like the Red Bulls need these points and they're gonna throw and like Troy Lessane's gonna play the best lineup. I think, you know, I think Miami and Tata Martino, like they need to play their best lineup, and their best lineup is with the GOAT. And if the GOAT doesn't play, sorry guys, Messi's not going to win you MLS Cup. And I don't even think he does. I think there's way better teams in MLS that are just perfectly, top to bottom, right? Like I love the Revs. I love Cincinnati. I love St. Louis and I love LA. Like those are my four teams that I think can win it all and can beat a Messi star-studded. It's just one star. Like, oh, actually, Busquets and Jordi Alba are actually pretty good too.
Well,
actually,
Busquets played, which was like the surprising part. Is Alba
yeah,
didn't, but Busquets played, so it was kind of interesting. Um, my thing is, I actually kind of disagree. I understand and agree with Messi not playing on turf, and I also think, and I hope this will incentivize those football stadiums who are also being kind of pushed from the NFL Players Association to go all grass. I'm hoping this is another incentive just for all players' safety in general. Because if you're Messi and you just watched what's happened in the NFL over the past few weeks, I'm not touching any of those turf fields. You know, like I feel like that's part of what's going in his decision is like I'm a little older, and I understand Busquets you could make the same argument for Busquets, yet he still chose to play. His competitive nature clearly is still there, but it's died down. He's not playing European football. It's not the same. And if you want to tell him, hey, you're going to potentially go end your career, I know it would be a freak, like very small chance of
that's what I'm
happening.
saying. Yeah,
But and I understand that, but you're going to go potentially end your, like really put a risk on ending a career potentially on a turf field in your first season of 3 in the MLS. Is it worth it? And like you've already got them some hardware, and yes, making the playoffs and trying to make a run would be great. Him playing for 3 full years is more important to Miami and the MLS than them doing something this season trying to salvage from the dumpster fire that was from prior. So I think that's where I'm going to disagree with you on that. Is I think it's okay. Like I do think again, you hope he plays just out of that competitive desire. But with what's been happening on turf fields for professional athletes, I completely understand why he did not. And although like if say I'm in his spot, I probably would have played. I'm not Lionel Messi. I'm not the greatest football player of all time. I get it. I really do. And I think and hope this incentivizes football stadiums to go to grass, not only for their football teams and the safety, but just to incentivize soccer teams to want to play at their stadiums in the United States with their full squads and the potential to make so much more money on ticket sales if Messi actually plays. You know what I mean?
I get it. I really do. But to play devil's advocate, if this were the last game of the season, and if I was a Miami fan, and like say like, let's play the hypothetical of like, okay, we need 3 points and we're in and we clinch a playoff spot, and your best chances with Messi. Is Messi going to really say, "No, you guys win without me"? And say
Well,
they don't.
didn't he talk to the media and say like he doesn't have an issue with her previously, like a month ago? I thought he said. I thought he said something
I
like
thought
this.
so too. Yeah, I don't know. I forget. But again,
That's what's making me think the recent issues are why he didn't. The recent issues in the NFL. That's kind of
in the
where I'm at.
NFL,
Yes, because they're the same fields.
no, I get that, but like
I get it's a different
this is
game,
this is
but they're the
beyond
same.
this is beyond the players. This is I want to play grass. I want every stadium to be grass. It's better. It's just a better quality. But like I get it. Like okay, like we saw what happened yesterday. Yeah, that's awful. To Nick Chubb, like that was just gruesome. Gruesome. But like at what point do you be like, all right, like let's go out there and get 3 points and let's try to win. This like if Miami were to clinch a playoff spot, great, because they come from 14 and they get to the top 9. If they get matched up, one of those first round matchups could be against New England, and it'll be in New England. Is Messi going to really sit out and say, let's it because now the MLS playoffs are best of one.
Yeah.
It's not aggregate anymore. It's one. If they play, a Charlotte or a New England, is he gonna say, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. I think it'll be different. I think he might play. Maybe he'll get subbed on. If the team does go down, like they're gonna look and say, all right, hey, like we need you. Like like him not dressing at all would be bonkers in my opinion. I think it'll be bonkers to say the least. Like it because obviously the season still is still underway. And we need to finish out the rest of the remainder of the MLS season. Again, there's like five match days left. So there is a chance that Miami does qualify. I just think it'll be hard to believe. Yeah, that concern is there. But I think the MLS Cup weighs a little bit more than this tournament that just took place in July. I really do. Like, yeah, they won a trophy. Great. MLS Cup is what you want. MLS
But
Cup, it's national TV. It's the best of the best.
I get it. I do. But this competition, in comparison to his career, means literally nothing. You know? So I feel like he's kind of at the point where he's like, do I play for three? Like, again, the risk is minor.
But you
Not much.
you can't say that to like the loyal Miami supporters that are like, this competition's nothing. No, this is our club. This is we brought him in to win. Yeah, you brought him in to sell tickets and to sell jerseys, but it's also a sport. And like this is where I want to stand up for the MLS. Yeah, it's not Champions League, it's not the Prem. It's still a competition, and we brought in Messi to win this competition. Like that's where I'm going to argue. That's where I'm going to argue. Yeah, it's America. I get it. Our sports baseball, our sports American football. We still play soccer. There's a soccer league for a reason. And like I'll go play beer league hockey and still want to win my beer league championship. Like that's where I'm going to defend the MLS. Like it's still a quality competition, and it's still like I still think, yeah, Messi's won Champions Leagues, he's won La Liga, sure. But what if he is saying like, hey, you know what? Winning David Beckham an MLS Cup would be pretty cool. It would be pretty cool.
He took the worst team in the MLS and won the first competition he was in. My personal opinion, and again, I'm not as big of an MLS guy as you are, so like maybe that's where some of my disagreement is coming.
That's
I think
fair.
I think I'm just looking at it as like a broader kind of maybe just
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a
yeah.
you know what I mean? I just think like he came in and accomplished something that absolutely no other player in the
Oh
world
my
probably could
god.
have done.
7 goals in what, like, or like 9 goals in like 6 games? Come on. It was
Ridiculous
awesome.
stuff. And winning a competition with arguably, if not unarguably, the worst team in the MLS is
Yeah.
extraordinarily impressive.
Yeah.
And to a degree, like I'm not saying like he's accomplished what he's had to this season, but there's a little less pressure on going to get into the postseason and make something happen solely because they did make something happen. It's kind of like United last year had a lot more positive surrounding them because they won a Carabao Cup.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I'm looking at it. Like, it's not the same exact thing because it's in the United States, it's different
Right.
competitions.
Right.
But that's kind of where I'm at. Is just like this team wasn't supposed to win this year. This
But
team
they
was supposed to get better and eventually next year and the year after be legit with Messi. I think this year, like the first season, in the first real half a season, was more about growing the MLS, getting him in here, and trying to see if he can make something happen in this inaugural cup. In the first year of the competition, you have Lionel Messi, the greatest football player of all time's name on it. That gives more weight to that competition, in my opinion, a lot more weight, just in its longevity. So as much as like I understand where you're coming from, I stand on the side like he did something that he probably realistically, as any other football player in the world, he shouldn't have done this season with a terrible football team. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, no.
I 100% where you get where you're coming from and where the Miami fans would be in terms of wanting him to play. But if you say you're him and you have an adamant stance about turf where you're just like, dude, I'm old. If I'm Aaron, like in an Aaron Rodgers type situation, I just kind of take an awkward step and it just all of a sudden I'm done. My ACL's done and I'm not playing until a year from now. It's just not worth it at that stage in his career. That's just where I'm.
No, I get that. And
Final point, and then we'll go to Champions League.
Yeah. As someone who did play, I was always taught like if you're afraid of getting hurt, you're gonna get hurt, right? Like if you think about like getting hurt, you're gonna like shy away from anything. It's different when you're like, your mid 30s. I get that, but I really hope he plays in the US Open final. That's another trophy. Teams would kill in the MLS to win 2 trophies in a year. Now we have 3 with this new tournament with the Mexican League. So Miami is hosting the MLS Cup in a week or so against the Houston Dynamo. And I would be damned if Messi does not play. Now this is their home stadium.
At home on grass, if he doesn't play, then I'm handing this one over to you.
Yeah,
but
like I don't
if
get
it's just a turf issue with the stuff that has happened I understand it's a completely different sport. Like I get it. I can understand like, why he would be hesitant. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's just a weird situation with where kind of turf fields are, especially in those NFL stadiums.
Yeah.
Like you bring up the Gillette example in particular, which is why I'm kind of like, I mean, they do have training camp grass fields just down the hill, so maybe.
But this is the league. Like the league has to implement this. The players have no say, and they could vocalize, and I'm sure a lot of people have.
The NFLPA
at the end of the day, it's on the league whether or not this plan goes through.
And I think it should. But
yeah,
all right,
I think so too.
And then we can avoid all of these conversations.
Right.
But all right, quickly, we have just a couple minutes. We're gonna finish up our Champions League with a little Champions League. We're both gonna give you a lock and a surprise result. But just first, kind of skimming through the games, I'm gonna say the ones I'm excited about. Jeremy's gonna highlight the ones he's excited about. Then we'll give our locks and get out of here with about a 4.5 minute timer on our recording Zoom here. So, Milan, Newcastle, RB Leipzig, Young Boys, Celtic, Feyenoord, Lazio, Madrid, PSG, Dortmund, City, Red Star Belgrade, Barca, Antwerp, Shakhtar, Porto is kind of your first day of games that are going to be coming up today that you're going to see. Hopefully, you listen to this before you watch, but if not, oh well, you'll be anticipating those games for tomorrow. Galatasaray, Copenhagen, Real Madrid, Union Berlin, Munich United, Arsenal, PSV, Sevilla, Lens, Napoli, Sporting Braga, Benfica, Salzburg, and Sociedad and Inter. Personally, I have my eyes on Arsenal, PSV. I have my eyes on Sociedad, Inter, actually. Obviously, everyone's watching Munich United, so I'm kind of skipping that one. I'm curious at what Galatasaray looks like, so I'm not going to like have that one on, but I'm going to be turning on Galatasaray Copenhagen just to see what kind of fight they're going to be putting up. I'm just curious at what they look like because I don't spend a ton of time watching Turkish football. I want to see what Porto look like because I think they're going to be a problem in this competition this year. So them against Shakhtar will be a game I have my eyes on. PSG Dortmund's a hard one to overlook. And then Atletico Madrid and Lazio is just going to be a battle of the teams that are playing terrible football at the moment. So both these teams kind of got to right their wrongs. And finally, Celtic Feyenoord is the last one Milan Newcastle. But Celtic Feyenoord is like kind of the outside the box.
Yeah, I mean, you really touched upon that. I mean, I love Celtic Feyenoord. I really think Celtic can really shock a lot of people. And I don't think it'd be like a big shock, but just, people don't really underestimate like the Scottish Prem teams like Celtic, like Rangers. That one's good. Union, if they get a point out of this one, would be like a miracle, in my opinion. And then Bayern United is like a proper way for United to just kind of regain the momentum that they once had at the beginning of the season and that structure that they know and love with all the injuries going on. If they can get just one point out of Allianz Arena, to me, that would make my world a lot happy. But in terms of my lock, I'm gonna go with Barca Antwerp as like, Barca's coming off a 5-0 win. I think this would be like a walk in the park. Now I say that and like Antwerp's gonna upset Barca 2-1 or something like that today. But no, I generally think Barca will take care of business. I think Atleti will actually come out of here with a win this week over Lazio.
I hope so. I think so. My lock is actually Porto over Shakhtar. I'm very high on the Portuguese and Netherlands teams in general in this competition. I think there's something like last year is when I realized how much I overlooked these teams when it comes to just general this competition, especially those Portuguese teams last year. They were very, very good. So I'm really keeping my eye on those Dutch and Portuguese teams to be competitive. And Porto's one that obviously stands out for a bit of history that they have behind them. I think they have a really good side. And then my surprise result, I promise this is unbiased. It's going to sound like it's not because I'm a Tottenham fan, but PSV draw with Arsenal at the Emirates. Again, Dutch and Portuguese football, I'm very high on. And I really do think that Arsenal's been playing a lot of really tight matches. And I think PSV is going to kind of come in and play a why not us type of game.
I actually like that a lot.
Yeah.
I would love if PSV make a nice little run against Arsenal.
Be nice.
We all would.
Yeah, absolutely. But is that going to put a wrap?
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. We will see you later this week as we preview the next match week for all these top leagues. Have a good one.